All right, guys, so it looks like we are finally on the verge of a new stimulus package. And this is, good news for some and bad news for others. But it looks like the politicians has finally decided to compromise. If you guys remember, the politicians were coming out and basically saying, listen, we want to get a stimulus package done before the final recess of the year. We want to get it done before Christmas, and we're going to be working on it. And Mitch McConnell was all in on his targeted stimulus of $500 billion. And Nancy Pelosi, at least before the election, wanted $2+ trillion, right? And then all of a sudden, after the election was over, Nancy Pelosi decided that, okay, we can finally be reasonable. And she was willing to come together on something that is in the $1 trillion range. And it looks like that's kind of sort of the package that we may or may not be getting. Now, some of you guys will be happy. Maybe some fiscal conservatives will be like, okay, the government's not spending that much. It's not 2-3 trillion that the Democrats wanted. And, it's a little bit more targeted, but again, not as targeted as Mitch McConnell wanted. And some of you guys who are not necessarily as physically conservative right now due to this pandemic, because you lost your job, or you depend on unemployment benefits, or you need extra assistance for your family to feed the kids, to put food on the table, probably are going to be pissed off, because to be quite honest with you, the politicians are giving us crumbs. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at gforemanbcp. Let's get it. All right, guys, let's not waste any time here, as I am going to show you guys my notes on what's in the stimulus package, just because this is all organized and I don't have to read through BS in the articles. So the stimulus package is going to be about $900 billion for COVID relief, and it looks like it's going to include stimulus checks. Now, Senator John Thune, who's a Republican and the second-ranking Senate Republican, said Wednesday he believed checks of $600 or $700, double that for family and kids, were a part of the discussions. But now, this is less than $1,200 stimulus checks that we received last time. And honestly, guys, like I said, the bipartisan agreement that basically kickstarted these new talks back a couple weeks ago did not include the stimulus checks, right? So stimulus checks was originally not a part of the plan, in which the moderate Democrats and the moderate Republicans had basically agreed upon. But Republican Senator Josh Hawley and Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders had worked to push for $1,200 stimulus checks. And I'm assuming that the lawmakers had came to a compromise, because there were a lot of people on both sides. It was just like, no, we can't do this without stimulus checks. We need direct aid to the people no matter what. And I'm assuming that pressure made the moderates come to a compromise, the ones that were bipartisan working on the deal, and it said, okay, you know what, we'll do about half of that, $600, $700, right? So that's what you're getting. Some people may be pissed off by that. Some people might not think that's enough. Some people might think that's crumbs. And, I'm not going to say I disagree with that. But, hey, it's a compromise from looking like that we weren't going to get any direct payments at all, at least a week ago. So there's also unemployment benefit under discussion of about $300 per week. It's basically $200 less than the $500 per week that we got under the last stimulus package. So, like I said, you see the lawmakers here, they are cutting down and trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible with this stimulus package. So they're giving less for unemployment, and there's about $330 billion on the table for renewing the Paycheck Protection Program for small business loans. Now, that is direct help to small business. So that's in there. Those are the main kind of things that we should be concerned about for the average person. Now, some of the comments about what was in the deal, what was not in the deal, and why this deal got done. Chuck Schumer acknowledged that the deal did not include everything the Democrats wanted, but he said it was necessary in the short term and vowed to work in the future to provide additional relief. Mitch McConnell said that Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, who were both facing runoffs in January, that will determine which party controls the Senate were, quote, getting hammered for Congress' failure to deliver more pandemic aid to struggling Americans, particularly the direct payments, and that enacting the measure could help them. So it looks like the Senate runoff race in Georgia really gave Mitch McConnell a kick in the butt to compromise on his $500 billion targeted stimulus that the Republicans kept trying to pass in the Senate unsuccessfully. They said, listen, the Senate is on the line, right? If we don't compromise here, if we don't give up something, we could lose the Senate, and the Democrats can run wild with whatever they want to do if they both lose. So they compromised particularly on the direct payments. Now, the Democrats also made some compromises as they have dropped their demand for dedicated funding stream for states and cities that are facing fiscal ruin. Now, the Democrats appeared to have compromised themselves, basically having dropped their demand for dedicated funding stream for state and cities that are struggling. Now, a lot of you guys may be happy about this because, you know, obviously you don't want funds going to a lot of these Democratic cities that have ran their cities in the ground due to COVID and also the protests and riots. So the Democrats have appeared to compromise on this, thinking that if Joe Biden takes office, that they will be able to work with him to provide funds in the future. Now, Mitch McConnell also compromised on liability protections, right, for businesses during this pandemic, which again was something that he really wanted. Basically, he wanted to protect businesses from getting sued due to COVID, right? That was a huge thing for him, but he decided to compromise on that with the idea that Joe Biden would do another stimulus and have more aid. Now, again, this is not me saying this. This is information I gathered from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, different places on the internet in order to get this. So apparently Mitch McConnell is waiting for his buddy Joe Biden to get in office so they can do more, which again may be a reason why he's so willing to compromise now. Now, and the governors apparently are pissed off, right? Andrew Cuomo, for example, says he's facing a $15 billion budget gap and slammed the news as hyper-political parochialism that will bankrupt his state and worsen the burden of responding to the pandemic. Quote, "This is a major problem. It's also a major disgrace. We have been talking about this for months since before the election. And then after the election, people were supposed to put their politics aside and actually do their job. Apparently, that hasn't happened." See, Cuomo, again, this is what you get, right? What comes around goes around. You basically said that you have been talking about this before the election, and then after the election, all you guys agreed that, oh, now that we have allegedly got Trump out of office, now we can come together and agree. Now we can all win because we all got what we wanted. Trump's out of office, right? See how they left you in the dust? See how they didn't help you, bruh? Again, what comes around goes around. Joe Biden had also responded to the stimulus package news, saying that it was encouraging at an event, but it's a down payment, an important down payment on what's going to be done getting the end of January into February, but it's a very important thing to get done. So he's weighed in on it, and the package will stay under $1 trillion, or at least that's what the politicians are trying to do. So keep in mind, guys, that nothing has been passed yet, but both sides, unlike before, are now indicating that they're close to a deal and that this is something that they want to get done. There's actually real numbers and things that are on the table now that both sides kind of agree on. And it's kind of just like the last time we passed the stimulus, where it became very apparent that one was on the horizon. So it's expected that the deal is going to be done at least before the end of the week. However, Mitch McConnell has warned that, if they don't, come to an agreement, that they could not recess and continue to negotiate past the weekend into next week. So both sides really want to get this done now. And like I said before at the beginning of this video, guys, here's the thing. A lot of people just not going to be satisfied with this. Some people going to think it's too much. Some people going to think it's not enough. For me personally, my takeaway is that I think it's just become apparent that both sides, right? It's just funny how before the election, we already knew the Democrats didn't want to pass anything because they want to get Trump out of office. But how come now all of a sudden Mitch McConnell is like, okay, I'm willing to budge on my $500 billion demand. Let's come together and make a deal with the Democrats. Because remember, guys, Nancy Pelosi was negotiating with Steve Mnuchin for the most part. And Mitch McConnell was in the Senate pushing $500 billion stimulus packages with Republicans, basically to say, this is where we stand. And if you guys pass anything much larger than this, just know we're going to sink it. Right now, again, some of you may disagree with that assessment, but I'm telling you, I keep up with this stuff literally for a living. I've read about the stimulus every single day. I'm up on the news. I know what I'm talking about. That is what Mitch McConnell stood on the stimulus. Now, again, people might say, you know, he was being fiscally conservative, and he probably was. He wanted something more targeted. He mainly wanted to help out businesses and give them liability protection from getting sued. That was his stance. I do believe that if they would have been able to pass a stimulus before the election, I think that it would have potentially swung the election in President Trump's favor. And again, guys, I know how you guys feel about what actually happened with the election. I'm just saying that I think it would have helped him. Now, would it have changed the outcome given what some of us believe happened during the election? Who knows? But I do believe that it would have helped him. So, you know, and the more I read about this, the more I just kind of feel like both sides really was not trying to put in an honest effort to work with Trump. Obviously, the Democrats didn't want to do it because, hey, you know, they want to get Trump out of office, but also maybe the Republican Party wasn't necessarily chomping at the bit to help get President Trump reelected in terms of their efforts to pass a stimulus. So who knows, man? If you're in the camp where you feel like this is not nearly enough, considering that we basically waited 6 to 7 months for some relief, not just for individuals, but for small businesses. Hey, I'm kind of right there with you, honestly. Right? But hey, this is a lesson that a lot of conservatives have been saying for a long time. Don't rely on the government for shit. It looks like this is what we're going to get, right? So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that this is too much? Or do you guys think that it's not enough? Also, do you feel like the politicians, for some reason, can now agree on stuff now that they feel like they've gotten their way with the presidential election? Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.